Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it will be appreciated if you can get settled and enjoy the session. So, a very good morning or afternoon, since it's 12:04. A very good afternoon to all my respected candidates, OBs, and fellow audience. Welcome to the official day 2 of the MUSA 2023 election debates. For our first session, we have got School of Engineering, the male and female representative. For that, I would like to call upon on the stage in front of me the office bearers first, starting with Brian number 1 and Darlene. Okay, that's the spirit. And introducing the candidates running for the 2023-2024 term, Brian number 2 and Letitia. Okay, so before we get onto the debate session, I would just like to run you all through the structure of the debates today. So we will start off with the introduction by the Election Commission, which is ongoing right now. Moving on, we've got the opening statements by the candidates, followed by Q&A sessions by the OBs, the Q&A sessions by the audience, and then we will have the closing statements from the candidates, followed by the closing statement from the Election Commission. A gentle reminder to the candidates, you all would have 30 seconds to think about your question, to think about your answer. Sorry, 1 minute to think about your answers. And also, another gentle reminder is no usage of phones are allowed on stage. Okay, so with that being said, let's proceed to the first segment of today's debate, starting with the opening statements from the candidates.
Hello. All right, good afternoon, respected election councils, MUSA office bearers, and fellow students. We hope everyone is having a great afternoon today, whether you're having a late breakfast or just wrapping up with your morning classes. Firstly, we would like to thank you all for the honor to be able to be on this stage today and be speaking to all of you. Being able to run for this position is a great honor, and we don't plan to take it lightly. We would also like to thank Brian and Darlene for their hard work as a SOE representative this year. Watching them at work in MUSA and speaking to them over the last 2 semesters is just part of why we decided to run for this role. And we couldn't be more grateful to them for all the briefings and always answering our questions regarding this position. Finally, we would like to thank everyone here for taking the time and effort to listen to us today. Without any further ado, let's introduce ourselves so you can get to know us more and our plans more. Hi, my name is Brian Kwong, and I'm a second-year mechatronics student. As an engineering student in Monash, the experience here has been rather stressful and hectic with all the assignments and studies that needs to be done in a week and even in a semester. In addition, I would like to mention that I've also served 3 secretary positions on 3 different committees and even worked a part-time job all during 1 sem. With that, I feel like I have a good amount of experience and even skills to handle the position I'm running for. Now, I'll let my partner, Letitia, introduce herself.
Hi everybody, I'm Letitia, also currently a second-year mechatronics student. I've been involved in both engineering and non-engineering clubs since I first joined Monash 2 years ago, including roles in MUMEC, IEEE, Leo Club, Chemica, and also as a student ambassador. Because of this, I have a lot of experience working with and speaking to people both inside my faculty and outside of it. I think Brian and I can both agree that our times here at Monash have been quite stressful, what with all the academics and assignments that we have to handle, along with looking outside of our course for personal and career development opportunities through joining extracurriculars and events. Now, Brian and I are looking to support our fellow engineering students through events and initiatives tailored for their future success, as life after Monash is definitely something on both of our minds, considering as we're halfway through our course right now. With our shared experience across so many clubs and organizations, we bring a wealth of experience to this pivotal role that we hope can create a School of Engineering that you are proud to be part of in 2024. Next year, we're looking to increase cohesion with all the events held within the School of Engineering, initiating conversations with MOMEC and other engineering clubs to ensure that students are able to access a diverse range of high-quality events that can cater to their academics, future career, or social lives. We would also like to continue hosting career development events as we notice that they have a lot of interest among our friends and peers. This is understandable as many of us are worried about applying for internships and future jobs What more so in a country like Malaysia, which is notorious for underpaying talented STEM graduates?
We also would like to organize networking events for students to meet and interact with their peers in engineering or other schools. This gives them more opportunities to form supportive networks throughout their degree and even maintain these connections post-graduation. Feeling connected to the rest of all your cohort mates and classmates is an important feeling that we want to cultivate during our term to combat the isolation and loneliness that often comes with a rigorous academic environment that we put through. For MUSA School of Engineering overall, we're looking to streamline our events to focus more on those that left the most impact on students this year or in previous years. We understand that free time is a valuable thing for many of our peers, so we hope to dedicate more resources to fewer events, allowing them to reach and benefit as many relevant students as possible. We will, of course, be looking to continue a few flagship events from previous years that continue to have high interest and bring the students tangible benefits. We will look to previous data to find attendance rates and feedback to choose these events and use the constructive feedback to ensure that we're always improving and better serving the students.
In addition to these events, we're also looking to increase academic support by expanding and giving more publicity to initiatives like the Year Representative System and the Mentor-Mentee Program, which connects first-year students to senior students in engineering. We hope to create an environment where students know exactly who to go to if they have any dissatisfaction with their course or with their campus experience and can feel like their voices are being heard. This will also include raising awareness and promoting the academic surveys that we have by providing incentives to students to fill it up and explaining why they are useful to them. With all of that said, we'd like to thank you all very much for listening to our introduction. We hope our manifesto resonated with you and addresses any concerns you had regarding the engineering student body. If not, we'd be more than happy to elaborate on any of the topics that you'd like us to later.
Thank you so much, candidates. I hope everyone here has a clearer picture. Moving on to the next segment of our debate session would be the Q&A by the OBs. So with that being said, let's take it away.
That's okay. Hi and good afternoon, Brian and Letitia. So my first question is, how do you plan to improve the annual events that students look forward to? And how will you incorporate new ideas and feedback?
All right, thank you very much for the question. So firstly, as we mentioned, we will be looking to streamline events, and the criteria for events that we will be choosing to hold in 2024 will depend on the participation rate from this year and previous years as well, if it is a repeating event, and looking at feedback from students and the organizing committee for these events, and whether they feel like they were impacted by it or they could have been impacted by it had a few things been different. So we'll look towards that, as well as collecting feedback from our peers, our seniors, and from our year representatives who are on the ground and able to speak to students through word of mouth.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
All right. Since we're already on the topic of event, testing, hello. All right, with the expectation that your committee will definitely be hosting several events, and also as we already well know that engineering has many clubs who are also hosting many site visits, events, workshops, whatnot, which also might be overlapping with testing with what you have in mind. So definitely we have faced this year several clashes and also low participation rates in some events. So how do you plan to combat this to ensure that in the end of the day, students will still benefit from it?
All right, thank you. So in regards to the overlapping events, we're hoping to be able to open up conversations early in the semester or during the sem break with MUMAC and other clubs to see what they have in mind exactly. If there are any overlaps, especially as we mentioned before, we are looking to streamline events, we would not have any issue delegating certain events that may previously have gone to MUSA SOE, perhaps to a club where that event fits their niche very well, as they'll be able to market it to students who are exactly in the target demographic. As for the low participation rates, as mentioned before, hopefully by speaking to all the clubs and being able to reduce the number of redundant events, or delegating it to the relevant club, or collabing on these events, rather than just having 2 events that students have to split their attention towards, we will have fewer events and thus more publicity that we can channel towards each event so that they can reach every student that can potentially benefit from them. Does that answer the question?
Yes. So, okay, I would like to as well. So noting that, engineering students prioritize their studies a lot, and also because there are many events that also clubs might host. Also, since you're going to be streamlining, but there is no guarantee that there will be a cap on how many events that happen in the year. So definitely, consider amount. And so engineering students who are interested to participate in these, how do you have any strategies in mind?
Regarding the low participation rates, at least from my experience, I do find that there are a lot of events that students would have liked to attend had they heard about it earlier, rather than not straight up not just being interested in the event. So we believe that more publicity for these events will be able to combat this. But for the low participation rates, we are also looking to maybe emphasize the benefits of each event a little bit more to students so that they understand. Perhaps for Mingle Night, we can emphasize what kind of benefits they can get from it, networking and meeting like-minded students within the same discipline or outside of it, rather than just saying, it's a Mingle Night, come and have fun, so that they can understand a bit more what they can get out of it.
Thank you.
Okay, so my next question is, you explained that you want to find the events. So can you give examples of the events that might be streamlined, and how will you measure the increased impact of those that you choose to focus on?
So the events that will be streamlining are really based on the participation rates and the feedback that we get from the previous events. So for now, we don't know. We can't give you a definite answer on which event that will be streamlining, because we still don't have access to the data that we'll need to actually make sure that the event is actually good or bad. So for now, we can't really give you a definite answer. Your second point is, how do we improve the events? So from this, what we'll be doing is through our peers, the people who has actually went through and participated in events, and also we can go through the feedback to what they said, and we can improve the event with all this.
Yeah. In regards to measuring the increased impact, we're hoping to, of course, get more sign-ups. That would be one of the most quantifiable data points to use for increased impact, being able to reach more people and knowing that more people are interested in signing up for the event. Past that, we'd also like to use our year representatives to be able to speak to their cohort mates and ask, have you heard about this event? And if not, where do you usually hear about your events? So that we can make sure that we focus on those channels if it seems like we're missing out on certain key areas. And in addition to that, perhaps we can also speak to the organizing committee from the events in previous years and tell them what we did this year, and measure that up to what they advised us to do if we had spoken to them for advice previously about how to run the event. And this will be able to measure whether the event has been run better this year or not. And of course, we will be keeping the advice like on a rolling track. So throughout the semester, if we get any feedback for events that we have in week 1, week 2, we will definitely be applying that feedback to events in week 6, week 7, and so on. It's not just like we're going to be looking at this year. It will also stay rolling throughout the entire semester to ensure that we're always up to date on what the student community is looking for.
Sounds like a good idea. That's all. Thank you.
All right, so what strategies do you have in mind or do you propose in your collaboration with MUMAC this year in terms of initiatives or events?
So right now, as I understand, MUMAC is currently in a handover stage, so it's a little bit hard to know what the new committee has in mind. However, there are some redirections that have taken place this year that we're hoping to initiate more conversations on and be open about during the SEM break to open the doors to a more collaborative 2024 with MUMAC. So the specific strategies will kind of depend on who we will end up speaking to once the handover is settled, but they'll definitely be put into place once we know them.
Thank you.
Okay, so balancing academic responsibilities and extracurricular involvement can be challenging at times. So how will you personally manage these challenges while serving as a representative for the students?
So for my part, I've mentioned that I've served 3 secretary committees and also a part-time job and also juggling the engineering course at the same time this SEM. So with this experience, I think I should be able to juggle all what you said. I think I'm capable of juggling the responsibilities of being a School of Engineering rep.
I would say the same for myself. Ever since I've joined Monash, I've been quite active in my clubs, societies, and extracurriculars. So I'm not too worried about being able to manage the time as an SOE representative, as I believe all my experience will be able to scale up and make the most out of this position.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of the year rep program, what do you have in mind to improve the program and to ensure that the students you'll be choosing is a reliable, they are reliable channels to connect with the course coordinators and providing constructive feedback?
So as a year rep myself, I've been part of this initiative for about a year at this point. So I can provide a little bit more feedback about what exactly it's like. So I would say for the following year, I would really like to increase the screening that is done on candidates and perhaps headhunt for candidates throughout the 2023 club committee so that we can work with people who we already know are reliable and trusted and are invested in their academics and extracurricular success. In addition to that, we'd also like to increase accountability and increase the number of requirements. For example, it is not known to some year reps that it is very recommended for them to go into classes to introduce themselves, especially for electives which their cohort mates may be taking but they themselves are not taking. By not doing this, they don't really get to put their face in front of a lot of students whose feedback they might want to hear from. So we would definitely be requiring things like that, just to ensure that there is more publicity to this system and that students always know who to go to if they have any feedback. We will also be equipping our year reps with more information about how to deal with different types of complaints, be it academic or based on campus life, and who exactly to refer that to. So we'd like to make sure the hierarchy is a bit more clear so that everyone is very understanding of what exactly they're doing and what we're all working towards.
All right. With that in mind, how do you plan to gather feedback in a more effective and efficient way?
All right, so we'll be utilizing anonymous form so that we can give students a chance for them to submit their feedback about their units or even their lecturers, so that we can compile all of this and we'll be able to present this during our SSLC meeting that we'll have monthly. While that, also we'll also be meeting up with our year reps, maybe in a routine way, so that we can gather all the feedback they have gathered along, and we'll also again archive all the feedback into one system.
The issue now with feedback is that a lot of people are perhaps not aware of their year reps because there is not enough publicity given to them. They are emailed to all students, but through my experience, I've seen that a lot of students don't tend to check their emails or dig too deep into them. So we will be looking to perhaps pin these posts on our Instagram or regularly repost these so that they are more visible, regularly repost them on our stories so there's more visibility to students. In addition to this, the feedback form that Brian mentioned will also be put to use, as sometimes students don't feel like going to year reps directly for one reason or another, and they will prefer to remain anonymous. In those cases, we would really like to have this feedback form, and we would like to post it on our story perhaps weekly, just to remind people that it's there and that it's easily accessible in our link tree. We will also put our year reps contact information in the link tree, just to ensure it's as easy as possible for students to get their feedback out there. Because the thing we want most is for students to feel like their voices are being heard. So we want to make these outlets for their voices very, very clear.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned about the feedback collection system and plan to use the feedback. So can you describe the mechanisms that you will put in place to make sure that the feedback is heard by the faculty themselves?
I think more regular check-ins with the year reps would be good. There is a group chat with them and everything, but I do think in line with the increased accountability that I mentioned before, perhaps regular meetings and reports on the feedback received through our anonymous form and through their own experience speaking to their peers, we can speak on that and sort of note down what has been addressed, and if not, how to address it and who to address. And like Brian mentioned, archiving this will all be very important for future reference for next year's year reps or even the current year's reps.
Okay, so what are the outlets that you will bring those feedback to the faculty?
So there are certain issues that can be brought up directly to the lecturer. For example, if the students would like more practice questions to be provided, or perhaps the lecture videos to be a bit shorter, things like that can be directly brought up to the lecturer first and to see how they respond to the feedback, whether they believe it's valid and what can be done. On the other hand, there's also some feedback that should be escalated perhaps to the course director level. And with things like that, we would have to speak to the year reps or the students involved, or just speak amongst ourselves if that feedback received was anonymous, and decide what is the best course of action. There are also some feedback regarding the campus experience that isn't related to academics, where we will be passing that on to the related management people and whoever will be relevant, as I'm sure will be introduced to their context and become familiar with them throughout our tenure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so since we're on the topic of academics, how do you plan to combat some existing academic misconducts that are happening in School of Engineering?
Okay, so what we'll be doing is having a post in our social media Instagram for SOE. We'll be having a post that explains all about academic misconduct, the consequences, and also what applies as a academic misconduct. We'll be pinning this also in our Instagram page so that it will be more visible. We also plan on doing a slide or maybe a part in orientation where we explain to first-year students about the academic misconduct, what applies to it, and what are the consequences, to warn them about it and to prevent them from doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I do keep mentioning our year reps, but they are an extremely valuable way of getting on-the-ground feedback. So we would also be looking towards them to just advise their peers on what can happen if you are caught for this academic misconduct, as there is a lot of uncertainty surrounding it. You know, many students won't know about it until they get their emails, and then suddenly they're shocked out of their skin. So in line with our manifesto, more academic support, this would be in line with it, and we would really like to make it clear to students what they should not be doing and what the consequences of that are, and the many different levels of things. And if they are unfortunately hit with it, we will be sitting in on the relevant meetings with the academic parties to provide them moral support and advice to prevent this from happening again in the future.
Okay. So what advice or strategies would you offer to engineering help them manage their responsibilities and maintain their well-being.
Okay, so for my first advice, I think it's normal. Everyone gives this same advice every year and every sem. Time management is very important for every engineering students. With a bad time management system, I think you can get very stressed out and hectic throughout the whole sem and even every week. And it will be very stressful, so that will be one.
Yes, and we would also like to encourage the students to join our events, especially as we will be tailoring them to benefit their career, future career, academics, or social lives. And we think it's quite important to emphasize to students that while we are providing academic support, academics are definitely not everything, and it's important to look outside of your course to find fulfillment in other areas and development in other areas. So we're hoping our events and initiatives can work towards that, and that we can promote these to students so that they can meet more people, develop themselves, and feel fulfilled outside of just focusing on getting a certain grade in all their units this semester.
Okay, thank you.
Testing. So sorry, just a heads up to the OBs. We've got time for one last question, since we have to take a look at the time. Thank you.
Beyond the initiatives, mic test. Thank you. All right. So beyond the initiatives mentioned in your manifesto or the election guide, what long-term vision do you have for the School of Engineering and its student community?
All right, so we did mention this in our manifesto, but we really are hoping to create and catalyze a more tight-knit community with a lot of support networks for students, as we understand how isolating this course can be with this very rigorous academic environment that we're all put through. So we're hoping through our events and initiatives, we can catalyze and allow students to meet like-minded students, form their own networks, and thus from those networks grow themselves. Even when me and Brian are outside of the picture and we've retired, we're really hoping that these students will join our events, become interested in hosting them themselves, join MUSA SOE and other clubs to just continue growing this network and ensuring that when the new students come in during orientation, they're welcomed in to a good environment, an environment that they're proud to be part of.
Okay, so that wraps up the first Q&A session by the OBs for today. Next up, we have the Q&A by the audience. So if anyone has a question, you can make your way to the mic in front here. Thank you.
All right. Hey guys, so I know that SOE collaborates with MOMEC quite a lot. So could you tell me more about what the differentiating factor is between MOMEC and the SOE reps department?
Yeah, sure. As head secretary of MUMEC, I'm quite experienced in this. And so the difference between MUMEC and MUSA SOE is that engineering clubs do not submit their event documents through CNS like most other clubs. We go through a separate system, and MUMEC is the management club that is in charge of those systems. So initially, MUMEC was meant to be more of a management body rather than a club per se, and to have a smaller, more streamlined committee just to deal with these documents and support the engineering clubs, like how CNS supports the clubs and societies within Monash. Meanwhile, MUSA SOE is more of the events holder and the publicizer, what students would probably think of when they think about the engineering events. So in recent years, things have deviated a little bit, but because of this, there have been many ideas and initiatives flying around that we believe can really be captured and distilled into creating initiatives that can really benefit the students and applying these ideas elsewhere. So yeah, despite the divergence from the initial ideas behind these organizations at the beginning, we're hoping to really separate them, but also work closely together in 2024 to ensure that we can both fulfill our potential to the maximum next year.
Thank you. So my next question is, could you tell me a bit more about what you believe are the biggest shortfalls for the SOA Reps department this year and how you will prevent this from happening next year?
Okay, so okay, so from what we have saw from Brian and Darlene, they have, from what I've counted in their Instagram page, they have actually done 9 events for this semester, and I feel like in general, as a engineering student, having free time is one of the most valuable things in doing a semester or even a year. So having 9 events in a semester, I think is too much for an engineering student. That's why we mentioned in our manifesto that streamlining events is our priority for next year, so that we'll be giving more focus and more quality events to the students.
Right, thank you. Now, could you tell me what your advocacy goals are for SOE next year?
Yeah, like mentioned in our manifesto, we'll be advocating more for the academic support. So putting a lot more focus onto our year reps and trying to improve the quality of that initiative as much as possible. And for forming supportive networks, putting a bit more of emphasis on networking, or maybe we don't even have to call it networking, just simply talking to other people both within engineering and outside of engineering during the events that we hold, be it over like a refreshment panel or whether it's the sole purpose of the event, like a full mingle night.
Now, could you tell me a bit more about what SOE students could expect from the department when it comes to career-related events?
All right, some of the career-related events that we can think of is like career development, so like job hunting related skills. So one of the things is resume workshop, or maybe an interview workshop. These are some of the examples that we can be given, because these are very important skills when it comes to job hunting, and lacking these skills can be a very big disadvantage when you graduate. You'll just basically, even after graduating, you'll still be stressing out about something, and I think that's not good.
Great, thank you guys.
Testing. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Okay. So hi, I'm Jachin. I would like to ask Brian, Letitia, I know you're from the Europe, so I would like you to refrain from answering this question. Brian, may I know who is heading the student education committee, basically the SEC in engineering? Who's the head?
Right now, I'm not really sure. I can't give you a definite answer, but I know that during my time as a SOE rep, I'll be handling a lot of matters with them. So right now, my focus right now is to find out these people and get to know these people when I get my position.
Okay. Okay. Just to advise you, I would prefer you to make your own research before the debates, because you are required to know who these people are before you are able to liaise with them. Okay. I believe Letitia knows who it is. Right? Please tell me you do. Yes, Dr. Kenny. Okay. Okay, that's my first question. My second question will be, because most of your initiatives are more on event-based and using the year reps as a publicity channel. So I would like to remind that the school representatives is not just an event holder, but also a liaison between the academic staff and the students. Okay, so I believe both of you are from started last year, right? You guys came into Monash in 2021, correct? So I believe you have went through 2 administrations of SOE reps, correct? Me and Brian Darrellins. So I would like you guys to identify the academic shortcomings, like in terms of academic welfare, the shortcomings that you are able to identify in academic welfare in both of our administrations, and how would you mitigate them?
I would say I can't speak so much for my year 1 experience. One thing I have mentioned before when I was answering questions from the OB is kind of a lack of publicity, things like academic, not publicity, but information accessibility, things like academic misconduct, I kind of had no idea about these things when I entered in year one. It's only when I became interested in becoming a year rep, and I thus became one, that I learned a lot more about these systems. So I can't speak too much to what was lacking in year one besides information accessibility. I would say I wasn't a particularly blur, but it's like this information was not so put right out in front of me, and I think a lot to my peers as well. So we would really like to make this information more clear to students, especially for things like academic misconduct. There's a lot of misinformation flying around within cohorts that we really hope we can make clear through our Instagram posts and slides during orientation. And as for other gaps within the academic welfare system, during my first year, once again, for year reps, I can't say too much. Brian was my year one year rep at the time, and I definitely did give him a fair amount of feedback. But for this year, being a year rep myself, I would say I didn't get that much feedback, and I think Brian had a similar experience as well in year one. I don't think there was a lot of feedback. I think I was more of one of the more like loud voices there. So definitely creating more channels to get this feedback, the anonymous feedback form like we mentioned before, and pushing our year reps to put themselves more out there so that they can receive this feedback, because a lot of students don't know where to put it towards.
Okay, so going back to the feedback, like after you have collected the feedback, you have submitted the feedback to your academic staff or to whoever is in charge. How do you ensure accountability in such that these feedback are acted upon?
We will be following up on this during our regular meetings with the departments, and also updating our year reps so that they can update students to ensure that their voices are being heard, and keep a rolling tally of all the feedback coming in, so students don't just feel like they're shouting at a brick wall and that they're actually getting the feedback. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of the feedback that lecturers give sometimes is just that we simply can't do anything about this. But even just letting students know that it's been heard and acknowledged can still do a lot for them and make them feel like they are part of a community that listens to them.
Okay, all right, thank you. No more
Right,
questions.
and also, we could also use email and also Instagram to tell the students that their feedback has actually reached the lecturers and the school management, and we can also give them the answers that the school management actually gave us, so that they are ensured that their feedback was actually gotten.
All right, thank you. No more questions.
Thank you very much.
Testing. Okay, so we have some questions from our YouTube live stream. So Jamal asks, could you elaborate on the mentor-mentee program and its specific components that help junior students navigate their academic responsibilities and club commitments?
So I took part in the mentor-mentee program as a year one. So I was assigned to a senior student that would, the goal of this was for the senior student to sort of initiate me through Monash, all of the social things and just unspoken rules about Monash that would not be covered during things like orientation or found in the handbook. And personally, I found it a very rewarding experience. I was given a very good mentor that taught me a lot and prepared me mentally for what was ahead of me. So this year, I decided to join as a mentor myself so that I could hopefully give the same experience to the juniors below me. However, I have noticed that, I've heard from a lot of my friends who also joined this program in their year one that they got mentors that were subpar, and because of this, they were not interested in joining the program themselves because they just felt like they didn't want to bother with something if they didn't have a good experience with it the first time around. So in looking to improve and expand upon it, I would like to increase the accountability that the mentors have, so following up with them a bit more and speaking to the mentees themselves, as there is a system now where the mentors are asked to give the weekly updates on their mentees, but we're not speaking to the mentees themselves. So perhaps the mentors could be saying, I gave a lot of advice, but the mentees could be saying something else completely. So I'd like to initiate a bit more conversations with the mentees so that we can hear both sides of the story and ensure that the mentor is acting correctly, giving the proper feedback and being a good channel for this student who is probably quite having a bit of a culture shock coming into Monash for the first time, being able to have a rock to lean on.
Okay, hope that answers the question. We've got another question. Sorry. Oh, okay, sure.
All right. Hi guys, thank you for asking the first question. Just a short question. This one's for Brian. So in your election guide, you've identified gaps in the education system for technical skills and career advice, right? So yes, you want to do a lot of events, that's great, but as a school rep, it goes beyond just events. So could you please elaborate on the advocacy bit and how will you use advocacy to bridge these gaps?
So like I mentioned this now, so events and a lot of workshops and conferences are how we are gonna be bridging the gap on the technical skills like job hunting, career developments. So because these are what our course lacks guidance of. They don't teach much on interview skills and a bunch of resume skills. You know what you have to put in your resume and all this. So these are very large disadvantages when you go out into the real world.
So you've spoken again about events. I asked you about advocacy because in your election guide you've mentioned gaps in the education system, right?
Oh no, I said gaps in the
Excuse me.
engineering course, just the engineering course itself.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't want to take up much more time. It's good. All right.
I
Thank you
think,
guys for asking.
yeah, I think I said it wrongly in the election guide, so it's my bad.
I think we've got one more question. Yep.
Hi. Okay, so you said you would want to put year reps more out there next semester, right? Like next year. So being a year rep myself this year, I've noticed that not a lot of people sign up. So what would you do to get more sign-ups in the first place?
We're hoping to start early, first of all, with recruitment and try to publicize it a bit more. As we're not hosting so many events, we're hoping to be able to channel more resources and just more of the attention economy towards the recruitment. And we'd also like to headhunt within the 2023 and 2024 committee, as currently there is a handover being done with all the engineering club committees. So we'd like to reach out to people and say, hey, is this a role that maybe you'd be interested in? As sometimes when you just see something on your Instagram, you might just scroll past it and you might not read your emails, especially during sem break. So we would like to personally speak to these people and tell them what the role entails and what will be expected of them and how it can really benefit them and benefit their cohort mates, make them feel like they're really making a difference. That's what we'd like to focus on in 2024.
Okay, but let's say you don't get enough sign-ups due to some reason. Is there any strategy in place so far?
We will be asking the year reps we will perhaps ask the year reps from this year to return or to continue on with the following year. So a year 2 year rep can graduate to becoming a year 3 year rep if that's their current course progression. So we'll look to the current committee as well. We can also, as has been done this year, there are some year reps that are actually giving feedback that are not in line with their current year. So we have year 4 students giving feedback for year 3 units, and these students, even though they are not taking the units themselves, they do go into the classes, introduce themselves and say, I am the point of contact, you can speak to me if you have any feedback regarding your academics, and I'll guide you towards the right person, or I'll pass that feedback on for you. So we can also do that, but barring that with no sign-ups, we will just keep recruitment rolling throughout the semester, and hopefully we can promote it at our events and just get people that are interested. Those with the initiatives that come to events will probably be more likely to sign up and be involved in something that they are proud to be part of. So that's what we'll be hoping to do.
Plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Test. Okay. So last question, guys. We've got to be mindful of time. Thank you.
Okay, so my question is expectation setting. So I understand that School of Engineering, you have 7 disciplines, you have engineering clubs, and then you have also collaborations with essentially IT and also other schools. So when it comes to collaboration, that's number 1. Number 2, liaising with faculty committees. Number 3, liaising with students. So in these 3 kind of parties, they have their own situations. You have to manage their expectations, and you also have to try to kind of meet their expectations at times. So given that there's a very, very big scope on different kinds of people that you'll work with, different kinds of situations you'll be in, and then there'll be times where, you actually have to unexpectedly take up more work or in the end, whatever you want to put out doesn't really get across to certain kinds of people or certain kinds of situations. So when it comes to these kind of things, right, how would you actually leverage these expectations? And if, let's say, these expectations can't be met due to circumstances, how would you actually convey that message to the relevant parties?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I've actually handled 3 secretary roles. So with that, I think I have more than enough experience to handle these kind of situations. With this, not everyone can get the expected expectations because there's always side problems to every solution. So what at most we can really do is try our best to do, even if it's more work, I think we'll try our best, we'll do it if if it's needed, to just maintain these expectations that these clubs and students will respect on us.
Yeah, and in line with our manifesto, in also with speaking more to MUMEC and other engineering clubs, we will also hope to do that with other faculties. So once all the representatives are chosen, we can initiate conversations with them and just encourage transparency so that the expectations are as realistic as possible. But of course, it is unavoidable that there will always be some misunderstandings. With that being the case, me and Brian are quite experienced with working in committees to organize events and initiatives, so we're not too concerned about being able to sort those out if and when they arise.
Okay, one last follow-up. So there's also, I think, another scenario when it comes to this general topic, which is between students and also the faculty staff itself. So this is more on the academic side. I've asked this question yesterday. So when it comes to students who are facing difficulties in their in light of certain faculty decisions, and when you, as the representatives, being the middleman between the students and also the faculty staff, there are times where there is a reason behind what the faculty staff decides on in terms of the students' welfare and also their ongoing being in the course itself. So, but then again, there could be situations where the problem is very obvious, but it's just that it's not being conveyed well. So on one hand, the students are facing these kind of situations, but then on the other hand, for faculty staff themselves, they are also struggling when it comes to trying to meet what the students want. So in terms of the students' expectations and also the faculty staff expectations, or like their demands and also what they can do at the very best of their abilities, how would you actually on one hand, advocate for the students to make changes or push changes to be done within the faculty, and at the same time, if let's say things has to be go in that certain way from the faculty side, how would you actually reassure the students that at the very least, they have, for both of you, you have tried to kind of advocate for the students, and also we have already thought of maybe certain alternative ways to kind of go around that issue that they're facing. So when it comes to leveraging these two parties, how would they actually go about it?
Yeah, we've touched on this a bit with a previous audience question. So there are times when feedback is given and nothing can be done about it, or the involved parties simply are not able to or do not want to do anything about it. The only solution at that point is really to relay that back to the students so that they're not just talking to a brick wall like I mentioned earlier, at least to let them know your feedback has been heard. Whether or not something can be done about it, that is perhaps not up to us, but we have done our best to relay it, and we're getting you the feedback now. We understand that sometimes there may be issues with academic stuff, like you mentioned, misunderstandings, a lot of mismatched expectations. So in cases like that, we would want to speak to our year reps and our peers more to sort of understand what exactly the issue is so that we can try to convey it as best as possible to the relevant faculty staff. And if it seems like they misunderstand, hopefully me and Brian would have gathered a good enough understanding of the situation at hand so that we can really try to lay it out for them. Barring that and saying that there's still not much that can be done, we will simply have to just show that to the students. And we would also like to more stuff about what I said, information accessibility. There's also free counseling that's provided by Monash by both professional counselors and trainee counselors. And if students really feel quite in distress over their academics, as it's not very uncommon within our course, we will hope that this information is out there. We will try and put it out there to refer students to if they really feel like this is taking a toll on them. And hopefully with these outlets, they'll be able to find a way to alleviate the distress or distract from it, or just find a known solution if it really cannot be fixed from management level.
Okay. I think it's a very good thing that you have a very clear direction on how to sort this out. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So with that being said, that concludes our second Q&A session by the audience. Next up, we would like to proceed with the closing statements by the candidates.
All right, so thank you very much for all the questions from our OBs and from the audience. We really appreciate that everybody has taken so much interest in improving the student body for 2024 and filling up cracks in the system. We really hope that we can meet those expectations. So we know firsthand how challenging it is to juggle our academics and other interests, and we really hope to be able to support our coursemates in their academics, career development, and social lives throughout our term. Though we do plan to have fewer events than previously, we're really hoping to channel more resources into those events to make them as impactful as possible and reach as many students as they can, especially for flagship events that students are excited to attend next year. We will also be initiating conversations with MUMAC and other clubs, like mentioned before, to ensure that students always have a diverse range of events to choose from that they can attend and gain their benefits from.
We'll be aiming to cultivate a supportive network within the engineering student body, connecting juniors to seniors and cohort mates to one another to ensure nobody feels like they are working towards their degree alone. We also want to make sure students know their voices are being heard, be it through their year reps, to the relevant lecturers and course directors, or the academic feedback surveys we get throughout the semester. With all that said, we'd like to thank you all now for listening throughout. We hope our manifesto resonated with you and addresses any concerns you had regarding the engineering student life. We'll be more than happy to elaborate more on any of the points we mentioned before.
Yes. And if you have any questions that weren't able to be fit into the audience segment, we'd be more than happy to speak to you more about it, be it later outside this auditorium or through our social media channels. Now, we'd like to thank you once again for listening, and remember to vote for your future this 12th October.
That concludes our School of Engineering debate segment. Once again, thank you so much to the office bearers, Brian, Wan, and Darlene, and a big thank you to our candidates as well, Brian number 2 and Letitia. Our next debates would be the head of welfare division starting shortly. Thank you.